I'm Dr. Orion Taraban, and this is Psych Better Living Through Psychology. And the topic of today's short talk is passport bros and international dating. So this is a topic that has come up frequently in the comments of several of my videos, and it's a topic that I've been requested to discuss by many people over the last several months. If you're unfamiliar with the subject, passport bros is the collective term for a movement among Western and specifically American men who are increasingly pursuing mating and dating opportunities abroad. These are guys who are flying to places like South America and Southeast Asia and the Middle East in order to access sexual opportunities that they argue aren't available in their home country. And I'm going to respond to this phenomenon through the lens of my recent experiences spending a month in the country of Japan. Now, I'm not very knowledgeable about this phenomenon, but to be honest, there was always something about the passport bros movement that felt a little sleazy and pathetic. Really examining it, my perspective was similar to the prevailing attitude, which was something like this movement was for guys who were too low status or unattractive to beat out their intrasexual competition here. They couldn't get laid in the States, so they basically engage in geo-arbitrage to leverage a relative advantage that wouldn't exist in their home country. My attitude was something like only guys who couldn't get what they want from women here would need to uproot their whole lives and travel halfway around the world, which kind of made these men out to be conniving beta males. That was my attitude before spending a month in Japan. That is no longer my attitude now. Having spent a month in that country, I think I better understand where this movement might be coming from. And I definitely...
It's funny how everybody changes their tune once they actually leave the country and experience this for themselves. And you know, everybody told me before I traveled abroad for the first time, they say you just got to see for yourself. And unlike him, I actually came into the situation in good faith and not just assuming the worst, kind of like how he did. But I digress. What's going on, YouTube? It's your boy Ron, back with another video. If you're new to the platform, welcome to the tribe. At the end of this video, I hope you subscribe. Now, the name of this content creator is Psychologist. I've seen him in the rounds, and I know he was recently on Fresh and Fit, and I think he might have been on the Whatever podcast as well. I'm not too sure, but I know recently he was on Fresh and Fit. And before y'all try to come for him in the comments, I already know y'all gonna say something about the whole beta male comment. To be honest with you, I've kind of strayed away from the beta alpha terminology nowadays. I believe more in the masculine and feminine terminology a lot more than a beta and alpha nowadays, because women want to call themselves alpha, and we already know that's a bunch of bullshit. But I'm gonna go ahead and see what else he has to say. Let's keep it
coming from. And I definitely don't think it's just for loser men who can't get laid in America. Allow me to explain. From the perspective of my interests and preferences, the quality of the women in Japan was significantly superior to the quality of the women in the Bay Area. Like, not by a little, by orders of magnitude. Let me break down some of the various factors that go into that statement. First of all, the women in Japan are slender and physically healthy. I spent a month in some of the largest cities in the world, and I must have seen 10 overweight women in that entire time, half of whom were little old ladies. And these overweight women weren't morbidly obese. They were like plump, maybe 20 or 30 pounds overweight max. Most Western women literally couldn't buy clothes in Japan. The vast majority of Japanese women are slender and physically fit, which is appealing because it's not only attractive, but it indicates a compatible value as well. Like, I want people who care about their health. Second.
See, the reason why I got this smile on his face is because I've experienced the same thing ever since I started traveling. Like me being in Medellin right now, I could tell you the amount of overweight women he said he's seen. I've probably seen about the same, if not a little less than that, since I've been in Medellin. And y'all know, like I've said before, there's beautiful women everywhere in Medellin, and most of them are fit. I rarely came across a big Shirley since I've been here. And I can say the same thing when I went to Barranquilla back in February. And I can definitely say the same thing when I spent my 3 months in Southeast Asia between Vietnam, the Philippines, and Thailand. Let's keep
Their
it moving.
health. Second, these women are feminine. They wear dresses and heels and makeup. They tend to dress more conservatively than Western women. No tight clothes, no showing a lot of skin. The feminine ideal there seems to be like softly elegant, flowing and modest and dignified. And these aren't 1950s housewives. These are women who, for the most part, are working professionals. They have modern ideas. They are educated and accomplished, but they haven't thrown out more traditional conceptualizations of female beauty. This is not something you can easily find in the West anymore, and you can't find it at all in the Bay Area, at all. And I find feminine women very attractive. It resonates with me and inspires me to be even more masculine. Now, before I go any
I've mentioned that several times on my channel. I had that experience my first time leaving when I went to Barranquilla, and I went on my first date. And I remember and this is a cultural thing, because it was so unexpected when we get out of the car and we're walking up to the area that we were in. If you watch my travel vlog channel, you'll notice this, because I mentioned it. When we get dropped off in the car and the girl literally hooks her arm to mine, and I was just kind of like, because at first I was just kind of looking like, what the hell? Like, why are you hooking your arm to mine? And I'm just kind of like, oh, like this is just how y'all rock. This is how y'all date. This is how you, okay, I get it. And it immediately gave me a sense of, okay, you gotta be masculine. She's hooking your arm like, I'm with you. You're my protector. I'm with you. And just like he said, it made, that femininity makes him want to be even more masculine, and it motivates him. I had that same feeling when she hooked my arm. And I was kind of like, oh, okay. All right, I got you. And it just came naturally. I don't know. Other people have experienced this themselves also. But let's keep it moving.
All right. Third, the women in Japan are extremely respectful. Every woman I interacted with there was extremely warm and friendly. They were receptive to conversation, and they seemed to enjoy, or at least very effectively pretended to enjoy, speaking with me. Even more, they were solicitous about my feelings and seemed concerned that I should enjoy the interaction as well. I didn't experience a single indifferent or disrespectful word, tone, or glance from a woman in a month. This made approaching and talking to women in Japan a much less fraught experience than it is in the US. The women I spoke to seemed to take pleasure in the attention and in the dialogue. Nothing about the interaction indicated that they were annoyed or offended that I was interested in talking to them.
And once again, I experienced the same thing actually pretty recently in Medellin. Any of you guys that watch my travel vlog channel, I always keep the link in the description. Unplugged Traveler. As a matter of fact, I believe that is going to be my next video that's dropping, of me going on a date with a young lady who I cold approached. And keep in mind, you guys, my Spanish is far from fluent. But the fact that I felt more comfortable interacting with her, cold approaching her in a language that I'm not fluent in, well, I won't say I was more comfortable, but she was more approachable. She gave me choosing signals, and I didn't have to. I was just able to be myself. It was I don't it's really hard to describe, but all I can say is that the interaction was so easygoing and so smooth, and it was just kind of like, damn, like I don't experience this in the States. So the fact that that interaction went so smooth with the very little bit of Spanish that I know, I was kind of like, okay. You know what I mean? At it was like after that interaction, it was like I had the confidence to approach any woman in Colombia. And part of the reason why is because the women here are just super friendly and very, very approachable. Like, even if you don't know the language that well, I mean, it's just different. But let's keep it moving.
Fourth, while a kind of chivalry exists in Japan, it's an inverted version of what we have here. In Japan, men come first, women come second. It's difficult to appreciate how deeply the romantic ideology permeates our manners until you go to a completely different culture. For instance, one day I was walking towards the main entrance of a building at pretty much the same time as a woman. My natural instinct was to get there first and hold the door open for her. However, when I did so, she refused to walk through it, making a show of great embarrassment. And I later realized that in that culture, it would have been embarrassing for her if I had allowed myself to disrespect myself in that way for her sake. However, our way of doing things is just as unnatural to Japanese sensibilities. That's starting to change more and more as Western ideologies continue to infiltrate Japanese society. But the important thing here is to understand that a lot of what many people believe to be the natural dynamic between men and women is really very culturally bounded and culturally specific. And to be honest, it felt good to be honored for being a man. Like, it's not a bad thing to be a man in Japan. In fact, it seems to come with some privileges that are more commensurate to the responsibilities that men generally take on. So let's recap. On the whole, Japanese women are slender and physically fit, feminine and demure, friendly and courteous, and respectful and appreciative. Not all Japanese women, I'm sure, but the vast majority of them, as far as I could tell. When I spoke with them, the feeling I got was that they felt lucky to be interacting with me, which is a total reversal of the attitude you generally encounter in the West. I've gone on a lot of dates in my day, and the prevailing vibes were either A, that I should feel lucky that the woman was allowing me to buy her a drink, or B, that the woman needed to make sure I could give her what she wanted by conducting the date like a job interview. There's a lot of entitlement and narcissism here. It's all about her. On the other hand, my sense is that in Japan, women feel grateful for the opportunity to be there, grateful for the opportunity to be considered as a potential partner. It was extremely refreshing, to say the least. Now,
I know, right? It's almost as if like women in these other cultures actually understand who controls access to relationships and marriage. Unlike in the West, the women act like, oh, you should be grateful that you're in my presence and I'm giving you the time of day because all these other men want me. Meanwhile, the women act like they're the ones that control access to relationships and marriage. That's the difference. The women in these other countries understand that. Because just like the women in the West, the women in these other countries are not going to get on bended knee and ask you to marry them. But they understand that you control that access. So therefore, the dynamic is a complete 180. And in all seriousness, what man isn't going to want that? Unless you're a man that's been brainwashed by this matriarchal gynocracy that we live in the West, or you've been raised by a single mom and you kind of been brainwashed and programmed to think like her. That's pretty much what it comes down to. In these other countries, men are men, women are women. Masculine, feminine, come together, be one, start families, build relationships. Life is just simpler. And I recently did a video on the cost of living as well. So he didn't really touch on that aspect of it, because I know Japan tends to be a little bit more expensive than other parts of Asia, specifically Southeast Asia. But with that, all that being said, I'm going to leave the link to this video, because this was sent to me by one of my subscribers. And subscribe to the brother's channel. He does good work. I've seen him before, and he definitely makes some valid points. And thank you to the brother who sent me this, because I've had so many people been sending me stuff lately, man. I can't keep up, along with everything that I'm, trying to do in Medellin while I'm here. All right, let me know what y'all thought about this, and if you're new to the platform, please subscribe. OGs, I appreciate the love and support. Make sure y'all hitting that bell notification, that way I know what I'm uploading. Hit the like button, because it helps with the algorithm and helps me reach a broader audience. Also, look out for the travel vlog channel, Unplugged Traveler, link is in the description, as well as my latest mixtape, Colombian Soul Volume 2. And if you want to purchase any of the merch, spreadshot.com, link is in the description. Until the next video, y'all, deuces.